Amen. Macy, how are you doing?
I'm good.
Well,
Thanks
good,
for having me.
good evening. Welcome to the Youth Specialties family, and of course, your former home church here, First Baptist Church of Lithia Springs as well. And we thank Pastor Kevin for allowing us to actually be here tonight. Well, hey, the movie's just gotten started, and I have a couple things I want to read to you that we just got right off the press here. Number one independent film in the country this last week. How does that feel?
It feels kind of crazy, honestly.
Okay, well, let's make it crazier.
Yeah.
Let me read some quotes here to you. Here we go. Hey, as a portrait of someone grappling with life and feeling off loneliness, even thoughts of suicide, I'm Not Ashamed is more than expected. Forbes magazine says this: its compassion as a talented actress, that's you, by the way, at its center, and being based on a teenager's actual journal, captures youthful dialogue better than many. From Forbes magazine. That's pretty cool, by the way. So once again, how's all this feel?
It's really incredible. You know, our prayer when we started making I'm Not Ashamed or when we started filming actually, we knew the impact that this story had on us, and we knew really the power of the story. And honestly, all of us felt God's hand just covering this story the whole entire time we were filming, post-production, everything. His hand never left it. And everyone that was on set, you know, not everyone was a believer. And but no matter who was on the set, though, everyone walked away so impacted and really changed. No one really walked away the same from it. And so we knew if that affected us that way, we were kind of just like anticipating and expecting the impact it was going to make on people. But since it's come out, the stories that have come from people seeing it after they go to the theater, I mean, countless stories keep flooding in of teenagers that honestly were contemplating suicide. And like you were saying, and this changes everything for them.
Wow.
The first night they showed it in Nashville, the premiere of the film on a Wednesday night, 100 people gave their heart to Jesus that night.
That's awesome. Wow.
And that was just the beginning, and they keep coming in. So it's incredible, honestly.
I got to tell you, when I heard it was coming out, I immediately thought, okay, this was 17 years ago. Like, how do you make something that was 17 years ago, man, come alive and just be as fresh as it was 17 years ago?
Yeah. You know, it's amazing, too, that a story hasn't been told yet about her life.
Yeah.
But really, her mom, Beth, had been protecting the story for the past 17 years. There's been a lot of producers that have wanted to take the film. There's been a lot of directors that have, you know, wanted to get their hands on this story just because it has to do with Columbine, and people know Rachel from Rachel's Challenge.
Yeah.
And but really, she'd been protecting it for this long, and then the past few years, she really just felt like the right producers came along, and she felt like it was time, and it was God's timing. And two, I don't know, when God works in someone's life, I don't think that ever gets old. And so,
Wow,
you know, and so, I mean, even things that we hear in the Bible, I mean, that speaks to us today. I mean, that's
now,
different.
yeah.
It's, you know, it's in the Word of God, but the work that he was doing through Rachel and the way that he moved through Rachel and the impact that she had, it was one girl, and she was 17 years old, and she was a high schooler, and she was real, and she wasn't perfect. And so I think that speaks to us today of, you know, you don't have to be perfect for God to use you, but he uses a surrendered heart and a heart that, you know, chases after him, and that's what Rachel had.
Now, you were only 4 when this happened. Sorry to tell your age tonight to everybody, but you were only 4. How did you prepare for this?
Honestly, when I got the audition, or not when I got the audition, but when I knew I booked the part, I had auditioned for it for about a year. It was a long process. They were scouting the nation and just really trying to figure out who they wanted to play the part. So I was, honestly, when I got the part, I was really intimidated because, I don't know, I felt like I was way in over my head. But I also learned when God calls you to do something, it's never anything that you know, if it's going to be used in a mighty way, it's not something that you can do.
Right.
It's not something that you can, you know, through your own strength or your own abilities. So I really had to depend on him every single day.
Now, most students don't like to wait. Most adults don't either. So waiting for a full year, like, how did you learn patience and trust throughout the whole entire process from auditioning until actually being told, hey, you got it? And then I'm sure filming took another good length of period of time too. So, like, how'd you learn patience through that?
Honestly, it was hard. It wasn't anything that was easier that I sailed through,
I bet.
perfectly at all. But I needed that year so bad. And that's really, I felt like that year the Lord prepared me to do the part more than anything. He taught me, I don't know, just what fully surrender of, even when I got the audition, the first time I got the audition, I don't know, I had a gut feeling that I knew I was going to do the role.
Wow.
And I remember telling my mom that, not even knowing why, except for it being from the Lord. And then when a year, again, when the Lord calls you to do something, a lot of times He doesn't give it to you.
Yeah,
You're sent
there,
through a
yeah.
huge process. And so through that process, I don't know, the Lord was just really preparing me and showing me what surrender looks like, what trust looks like. And He also taught me what it looks like for Him to fight for you. Because really, there's no reason I should have gotten this part. I'm an actress, and I've trained really hard, and that year I did train really hard, and I've done a lot of things. But I mean, I live in Atlanta, Georgia. They were scouting LA, and really the odds were just against me. And they had actually
Wow.
even given the part to someone else at one time. So I don't know. I remember the Lord speaking to me one time in my quiet time, and He just said that He would fight for me. And a couple of weeks, I got a call that they felt like the Lord said it was me.
Wow.
So,
Now, why did you feel like you were not right for the part? I got to ask that question.
Well, I don't know. I mean, there's so many ways I could relate to Rachel, and I think just feeling intimidated by the role. I mean, I knew how powerful the story was, and I knew that they were looking for, quote unquote, the perfect person. And I don't know, when you get a role that you know it's going to make such a big impact and people are expecting it to be so great,
Yeah.
I don't know, I just felt in over my head. And I think
Which is
anybody
usually-
would probably
yeah,
feel like that.
I definitely would. I mean, especially following someone like her, basically. And then, not to mention, you were also on the set daily with her mom, Beth. What was that like?
Oh, before I even went to film in Nashville, Beth called me, and she just told me how proud she was of me, and we hadn't even met yet.
Wow.
But she said she felt confident that I was supposed to do it, and that God had called me to do it. She knew it, and that was so special. And then when we were on set, she even made a comment that she felt like Rachel was kind of back,
Wow.
just being around me. And that was just, I don't know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So we have a really special relationship, and anytime we get to be around each other, it's so sweet.
Now, Rachel had a great journal. That's how we got the movie. Did you get a chance to look at any of that at all or read through any of that?
Yeah, she left 8 journals, actually.
Wow.
She journaled a lot, and most of it was to the Lord. Actually, the majority of it was kind of like a prayer journal. And I got to dig through those every single night after set, or I had access to them while I was on set. Like anytime I needed them, I had them.
Was there any part in those 8, I didn't know that there were 8 of them, were there any part in those 8 that you would say, man, this one stands out, that you can still remember?
Yeah. Oh, man. There were so many times throughout the journals that really Rachel kind of knew she was going to die.
Wow.
And it was almost a prophetic thing, really. And I feel like God was revealing things to her, and she really didn't know what or why, but she wrote it down. And, we're thankful she did write it down. But when you read them, it just looks like God was preparing her and preparing her heart and kind of just letting her know, like, something big was going to happen. And she writes that a year to the date before she died, she wrote that she knew it was going to be her last year. And she said that
Wow.
she wrote to God that she had gotten all she can from here. And on the day she died, she was drawing a picture, and she drew a pair of eyes, and 13 tears were falling from the pair of eyes. And the teardrops turned into blood drops, and they fell onto a rose. And 13 people died the day she was drawing it.
Wow.
And so just so many things like that. I feel like God was just revealing to her, and she wrote it down.
Yeah, it was her last year. Now, she was one of the first of the 13. And when I saw that part of the movie, of the clip, I thought, wow, I didn't realize that she was one of the first until preparing for our time tonight. And what did that say to you? You're thinking about, man, out of the 13 people, 2 if you count the 2 boys, that she was one of the first. So what did that say to you throughout all that, and how did that speak to you?
Well, I've never thought about it that way, but I don't know. The killers made a list, and Rachel was the first person on that list. And the other people on the list actually didn't end up dying that day. So Rachel was the only person on the list that they had made that actually died.
Wow.
So I don't know. When she died, she was sitting outside and she was talking to her friend, and the guy she was sitting with didn't actually die. This is how we know that,
Yeah,
you
the
know,
story.
what was spoken between the shooters and and Rachel. So he's still alive today, and yeah, he's the reason we know what was said.
And I believe his name is Richard Castaldo. If I'm not mistaken. Did you get a chance to speak to him or any of her friends at all?
No, I haven't spoken to him, but the guy that plays Nathan in the movie, I don't know if you've seen the movie, but her best friend, he's a street kid, and Rachel befriends him. You know, he's a homeless
Yeah.
guy, and his name's Nathan in the movie, but in real life, his name is Mark, and he's still alive today, and he came to the premiere.
Wow.
And oh my goodness, it was so crazy seeing him.
That had to be,
And
yeah.
when he saw the movie, he saw it a little bit before the premiere, but he said he felt like he was watching a memory rather than watching a movie. And
Wow.
I don't know that, you know, we tried to be as accurate as possible, but those little details, even that we didn't even know happened, you know, I think God was just working through the director and working through me and working through everyone on set of just doing things we didn't even know were really happening
Yeah.
or really happened, but they did.
You know, it's interesting because she's first on their list because of her love for God and for the cause of Christ. What would you tell today's student who's going to school every day and it's a tough environment? Like, how would you tell students today to, even in tough environments like our middle schools and high schools, to keep the faith? Like, what words of encouragement would you give to them?
I would say, I mean, no matter who we are, life's gonna be hard. And, you know, we're all gonna die one day, and whether it's earlier or later. And so, you know, dying is inevitable. And I don't know, but the one thing we have is hope, and that's Jesus. And that makes all the difference of we don't have anything to fear because of that. And I think, you know, Rachel's last moments, she was able to say, you know, I believe in God, with a gun pointed up to her head because she knew the hope that no one could take away from her. And even in those moments, I believe she experienced the love of God like never before, too. And I would just say, you know, Jesus in Rachel's life, you know, proved to be the only thing that satisfied her soul. And, you know, she tried everything else. She wasn't perfect in the fact that she never tried things of the world. Like, she really did. She tried it all.
Wow.
But it left her empty, and it left her, it didn't satisfy her like, like Jesus did. And so it's worth it, I would say. It's you know, to intimately know him and to follow him, he satisfies you.
Now, once again, you're playing someone's life, Rachel's life. How did this movie and how did her playing her, how did that change you as a person?
There's honestly in so many ways, but one thing that still sticks with me, one of the many things that really sticks with me today is, you know, even when Rachel was a little girl, she knew she was going to make an impact on the world. And even in the movie, you'll see this, and this happened in real life, but she drew her hand on the back of a dresser, and in it she wrote, "These hands belong to Rachel Joy Scott, and they'll someday touch millions of people's hearts." And she wrote that as a little girl.
Wow.
But, you know, she had no idea knowing that through her death, millions of people would hear about the impact she made, or that's how she would make her impact. But when she was alive, she was just faithful, honestly. Like, she was faithful where God put her. And yeah, she struggled and she wasn't perfect and life was hard, but she really was faithful to be the hands and feet of Jesus to people right where God put her. You know, she didn't wait for an influence or a big group of people or a platform to make a difference. She just reached out where she was.
Now, you grew up here in the Atlanta area. I call it God's country. And so what was that like? You know, and you were a pastor's kid. We talked about this too. And so what was it like growing up in a pastor's home?
It was great, honestly.
Really? Okay, you're one of the few. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, well,
So,
I get that question all the time of like, oh, you're that pastor's
yeah, you're
kid.
that person, yeah.
Or, like, that must be terrible. But I don't know, my parents did such a good job of, I don't know, I never felt like I was a pastor's kid. They were just like, if you love Jesus, this is how you live,
Yeah.
And so I never felt that pressure, honestly. But I don't know, it was so fun. Like, every Friday night was family night, and like, we'd go outside and play hide and go seek, and like everybody, my dad, my mom, and movie nights. Like, I don't know, we were a really close family, and we still are.
Wow.
And I don't know, they really just taught us what it looked like to follow Jesus, and I don't know, it was amazing, honestly.
Now, I won't tell your age, obviously, but you're in your early 20s. What is this like? I mean, it's #1, of course, independent films. I mean, it's done very, very well to be out in only 505 theaters. That's pretty impressive. How are you handling the pressure of doing lots of these? Hopefully, this is probably your best one, obviously. But how are you handling all that?
It's you kind of just realize, this what we're doing. It's for a short amount of time. We're promoting right now because the movie will be in theaters for however long, and so I don't know. I think we all just want to give it all that we have, and we know the importance of the story, and hearing the stories that people are telling us after they go see the movie. It's so worth it to give everything we have. I mean, lives are being changed, and so anything and everything I can do to help with that, I want to.
Now, what would you say to youth pastors and pastors too, who have students who are just like you, who feel like, man, God's calling them to act? What piece of information, advice would you give to them?
That's a good question. I would say, I don't know. A lot of times it's just, like, you're never just going to get there. You're not just going to wake up and opportunities at your door. It's a lot of little steps. And first of all, your relationship with God is the most important thing, and that'll determine everything about you, like what your pursuits are and where your heart is. But also, I feel like God's gifted us all in really unique and different ways. And if he's given you a passion and a love to act, I really think that's from him. Yeah. And if you're, if you have a talent for it, then I would just say surrender it to him and tell him your desires with it. And really, I mean, he'll always be your promoter. Yeah. You'll never be the one that puts yourself places. It never works like that. So I don't know. I just say surrender it to him and just keep going.
Wow. Now, speaking of promote, you've been all over everywhere. How long did it take to make this movie?
I think 6 to 7 weeks, and we worked every day. Got one day off, and it was like 12 to 16-hour days. So it was a lot.
Okay, I'm working 8 for certain people. I won't say who, can be tough. So how do you do 16? I mean, that's tough.
Okay, well, honestly, I realized how much I loved it when I was working 16 hours, and that was like fueling me. Wow. So I realized that, I actually love this. And honestly, when you're in the business, you learn really fast if you love or hate it. Because if you don't love it, you will hate
the 16-hour days.
12 to 16 hours. You will hate everything about it. So if you love it, it'll fuel you, actually.
How many times have you seen the movie? And does it ever get old seeing it over and over and over again?
I've seen it maybe 15 times, honestly, just because of all the screenings we've gone to and all the different things we've had to do. My dad can quote it. He quotes it in casual conversation, honestly.
Wow, that's a pretty cool thing, I guess.
It's hilarious, honestly.
At a family dinner table, is that kind of weird? No, I'm joking. I was going like, okay, I know that line.
Exactly. It's actually hilarious. But what was the next question?
Like, how do you see it? I'm sorry. That's a good question. I can't believe you forgot that. Now, how many times have you seen it? You said 15 times.
Yeah, probably 15.
Does it ever get old seeing it, though?
I mean, there's always times where you're like, oh, man, I've seen this a million times, and you're having to watch yourself, so that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But
how's that weird, though? I mean, being you, you're on the screen
you're
here that they can't see.
You're your worst critic, so you're like, oh, man,
Okay, I got to follow up on that. What parts of the movie would you change then?
Have you seen the dancing scene?
No, I haven't seen it yet. I'm sorry.
Did you see my dance moves?
All of it looked good. All the clips I've seen are great. Okay, so don't give away
I'm just
any
kidding.
part of it.
I'm actually proud of that moment.
Okay, you're proud of dancing. Okay, great. But no, seriously though, is there when you say you're your worst critic, okay, you get to look at it over and over again. Like, how do you make sure to not get caught up on that, basically,
Oh, yeah.
but keep the main focus? The main focus.
Yeah. I mean, you just have to realize, honestly, on set, like, if you give it everything you have, and, like, every single day after you worked, you're just like, I literally gave it everything I had, then you can't really regret anything.
Yeah.
Because you know that you didn't, you left it all on the field, basically. And my director would remind me of that every single day of, like, let's just give it all we have today. Like, have fun giving it your all. And that is so fun. Like, it's so fun to get done with the day and realize you literally gave everything you had.
Wow.
And so I'm also, I mean, I say you're your worst critic, but you're also really proud when you watch things because you're like, not proud of like, oh, that's me, but proud of like, man, I gave it everything I had.
Wow.
And so, I don't know, I think it's fun in anything you do to do that.
What was it like seeing it for the first time? It's done. They invite you to come see it. What was that feeling like?
It was surreal.
I bet.
And it was
yeah.
it's so cool to see, everybody that's involved with the cast and a crew are so crucial, and it's so cool to see everybody's talents and gifts and see it all come alive. It's like magic, honestly. So to see it all put together is beautiful.
A couple more questions. Growing up in a youth ministry and a pastor's home, how did that play into you playing this part?
Well, I think, I mean, I have a lot of the same values and desires and wanting to make an impact that Rachel had, and even growing up. And so the way my parents raised me and the family that we were in, I don't know, I feel like that's the reason, that just helped in shaping, and just like spurring me on in my relationship with God. And I don't know, I just feel like it just kind of shaped me in that way.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
When people are all said and done, and this is all over with, and it's going to be done sooner than what we like it to be, obviously. What do you want people to walk away saying and thinking about it?
One thing I really want people to walk away just knowing that they've been given a purpose. They weren't created on accident, and God wants to move in and through them in an incredible way. And I feel like one of the enemy's biggest threats to us really is just sailing through life, and missing out on what God really wants to do in and through us, and the way we really can be his hands and feet, and the way we can really change the world by first knowing him and then letting him move through us. And so, but that takes a relationship, and that takes discipline, and it takes committing to that. And not, there's so many distractions, but it really takes a focus, a laser focus. And so I hope people walk away just knowing that they have purpose and to fully live in that purpose.
Last question. This was hard for me out of all the questions I was coming up with, and that people helped me come up with too. One day you're going to see Rachel when you get to heaven. What do you want her to say?
That is such a hard question.
I bet. It was hard writing that question, by the way. But,
I honestly, like, when I have pictured that before, I'm not going to lie. But I don't know. I want to give her a hug.
yeah.
And I don't know. I hope she laughs at some things that were shown that that got to be shown of her personality.
Yeah.
And I hope she's just so much joy of the way God moved through her. And, even being able to be the same person, me playing her, I just think it'll be special. I think it'll be so fun, really.
I got to tell you, I cannot believe our time has flown by, to be honest with you. But it has been exciting being with you here tonight, and the movie is great. #1, which you should be proud of that, by the way, and I can see why it's #1. It's been great talking to you tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.